Hi guys, Hexy. Let's sort of preview and take a look here at Moscow, 1941, The Enemy at the Gates by SPI, and it looks like it was done in no idea. It doesn't have it stamped on the front here. I'll have to look at the date on it. I've had this one. I think I had this thing years ago, and then I come across somebody selling some games, and he had this one here. He had a bunch of Victory Game stuff, and I think I grabbed this from him, or I got this. I'm not sure I got this somewhere else or not, but I thought, you know what? It's East Front. It is, I'm assuming, Operation Typhoon, and I thought, you know what? Let's give it a play. I've never really looked at it before, so let's talk about what the back of the box is, which you all aren't able to see all of it. Okay. October 1941, the onrushing German blitzkrieg has smashed Stalin's frontier armies. As the reeling survivors, stiffened by elite Siberian units, fight desperately to slow the German panzer, Stalin decides to stay in Moscow to lead the defense. Now, the unchecked German forces stand poised and ready to launch their final assault. The coming battle will be decisive. All right. So it's an operational level recreation of the battle for Moscow. The players maneuver colorful cardboard, yeah, we know that, colorful cardboard playing pieces on a four-colored map of the Smolensk-Moscow area. So this is post-Smolensk. They've already overtaken Smolensk, and now they're prepping for the Operation Typhoon, or the drive on Moscow, which we know was delayed because the panzer groups or panzer divisions were redirected north and south to help the other army groups, one for Leningrad and one to go down to help Army Group South out. And then, of course, a lot of the generals were upset in the German army because they wanted to go ahead and instantly drive on Moscow. They thought Moscow should have been the target all along. Who knows whether that was right or not. Hitler wanted those oil fields and the grain and food stuff in the south, so that's what he chose. All right. Playing pieces represent the actual panzer regiments. Tank corps, infantry divisions, and other units involved in historical operation. Additional counters represent headquarters, cavalry, ski troops, fortifications, partisan organizations. A hexagonal grid superimposed on the map regulates deployment, movement, and battle engagement of the pieces at a scale of 10 kilometers per hex. The die roll, a roll of 2 dice on a probability chart, determines each combat's outcome. Unit types, supply situations, and the current weather also affect the outcome of combat. Each game term represents 4 days of combat, covering German and Soviet operations from October of 41 to the end of January 42. In the Moscow 41 game, the players recreate the most decisive battle of the early war years. All right, so we know the Germans got close enough to say they saw the spires of the Kremlin or in Moscow, okay? Complexity level medium. Playing time 4 to 6 hours. Number of players 2 to 4. The David Cook was the designer, Jeff Easley was the illustrator, and Kevin Zucker, the cartography guy. Okay, this thing was made in. I still don't see the date on here. Guess I'm gonna have to dig. Oh, 1987 TSR is what it says here. I don't know if this was this a TSR creation or because it's definitely not SPI's Operation Typhoon, or did it come from some other game in SPI? Anyhow, 122 by 34 inch map, 24-page rule booklet, which only actually 19 pages of rules, 2-player aid cards, 2 6-sided dice, which I don't have, no problem, I got some around here, a counter tray, and 600 die cut counters. This got one of those cheesy counter trays. No, take it back. That was another game. This has one of those original locking counter trays where the edge of the tray lid doesn't go over the sides of the tray, but it does seem to lock down. All right, so there's the box, Gotta love the artwork, right? There's like a series of games that are the same way. Cobra's the same way. I think, is it France 44 that I just played the same way? I got the Barbarossa ones the same way. All right, so player age, it says 2. You got one for the Russians, and you got one for the Germans, okay? Has their player card, and on the back sides, it has their reinforcements and deployment stuff, which, yeah, put one there so you can see it, okay? All right. I like that. Simple. Everything's on the cards that you need. One for the German, one for the Russians. All right. Easy to look at, easy to understand. Your combat results chart, your terrain effects on movement chart, and that will depend on, this can also be affected by weather. You have a zone of control chart. Different take in this game. Well, it's not different. I've heard of it before. Rigid or fluid zones of control, regular zones of control, fluid zones of control, depending on whether it's a mechanized type force or whether it's a foot type force. Sequence of plays on the front of each card. You have force march in this game. Now, I've heard of force march in other games, but in this one here, you can, if I say unit has 12 movement points and he's under an activation, you can move him his full 12 movement points, doing overruns or whatever. Then you can do it again. if you want. You can force march. Now, you can force march the unit again, but then they're going to roll against the fatigue table after it's all said and done. All right? And and if you roll a 1 on the fatigue table, they become fatigued. So you have force march table modifiers and stuff like that that can affect, during the weather, whether or not that unit's going to fatigue. And you don't want them to fatigue because that becomes painful. They're reduced and some of their effectiveness is gone, okay? Fatigue is another thing in this game. You're going to have retreats, you can have step losses, you can have fatigue. Now, let's talk about those step losses. So, like playing OCS, you have a step loss marker. All right? 1 on one side, 2 on the other. After, if they take another step loss on that too, the unit's eliminated, okay? The German infantry divisions and armored formations can take 3 step losses. Russians can take 2, or take 1, and then they go to a remnant. Remnants, and in the case of remnants, if they take a loss, they're eliminated. The Germans have breakdown units, which I guess are going to be similar to remnants in a way. Let's see. Now, Soviet remnants are much weaker, okay? You can be fatigued and not take a step loss, all right? But like I say, you suffer penalties for fatigue. And the remnants for the Germans, I think, are 2. They can take 2 step losses. I'm going to have to reread that. I've read all the rules once. I've highlighted everything that I thought was major. And, of course, just like every other game in the world, I've memorized every rule in the game after reading it the first time. Right? Right. Ha, funny. All right. So now let's take a look at, simple black and white. Now, here's something interesting about this rule book. It is, let's see if I can find a section here. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. No, not perfect. Let's find another section here. All right, yeah, here we go. So there's combat, case 11.0, right there, right? Here is combat. That's combat results. Combat 10.0. Interesting. Combat. But then it goes over here underneath of combat results section. So it's kind of, the rulebook's it's kind of cool though. But I'm assuming this would be the standard font for the rulebooks. They're nice, clear and clean, just black and white. And it uses major case. Combat is all 10.0, and then it uses the case system 1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, okay? And on and on and on. So the rule book to me is fine. Just reading through it the first time, I think I maybe had one paragraph of a rule that I read that just wasn't crystal clear. Had to read it 2 or 3 times to make sure I understood it. All right, the map. Okay. Not quite. Well, we all have a lot of opinion with some of the TSR maps, with the silly putrid colors. What's the first thing when you look at this map? I know what it is for me, but the first thing that comes to mind when you look at this map, to me it says winter. All right. Late fall, winter. All right. So Typhoon was pretty much, I guess, during the winter months. So October, yeah. So October into January 42. Yeah. So those blue woods say winter, icy cold to me. Okay. And then you've got this marshy, swampy stuff. There's only 4, like I said, there's only 4 colors on the map. And then you've got cities, which are marked with points. They have a point system, like Tula here is a 2 and a 1. If you capture those, I have to look because I'm not sure which one is which. I think one's German, one's Soviet, or something. I don't know what it is. But they also apply for victory points, and it's like, if it's 2 on this number here, it'll be worth 4 victory points at the end of the game turn. Moscow, each hex of Moscow is worth, which you can't see, is worth 5 victory points at any time during the game that a German unit occupies one of the hexes. Even if he leaves and it gets retaken, they're going to get the 5 victory points for actually taking it. All right, now, and let's go over this one last item because I really want to get to playing this thing because it looks kind of fun. The units. All right, Russians, red. Your guards units and elite type units have the white. And then the other units all have the black. Okay, they're easy enough to see. German armored formations, panzer divisions are all in this light gray with black, easy enough to see. But then you got the regular, I guess, Wehrmacht type troops in this dark green and black. That is hideous. I can see them. My vision's not that good anymore. I got my readers on, but I can see them. And of course, when you flip a unit over, I don't even have one that's not wounded yet. Right here, when you flip them over, you see the guys with the white stripes are fatigued. They might be fatigued and have step losses, and see, you still can't see these things, okay? That's just, I don't know. That's terrible. Now, where the hell did I get him from? I can't remember. We'll put him right back there, I guess. Okay, anyhow. Yeah. Okay, but of all the counters in the mix in the game, that I guess if that's the only problem, then I should be okay. You have markers for activation. You have reserve markers, where I've only read the rules once, but you can actually have a unit that gets activated, which activation in this game is by headquarters. It's similar to the 3 games that MMP made, where all units within the command range of a headquarters can be activated, okay? So, I don't know what they're called. I gave all mine to Wardrobe, so I can't remember what they're called anymore. And then you can also do individual activations by spending another unique function that I had not known of or seen in any other game. It's called initiative points, which are tracked right here. And I'm looking over on the turn record track saying, oh, these guys get 25 initiative points. Well, when I saw that before I read the rules, I'm like, my God, that's a lot of stuff to track. But you're actually going to burn quite a bit of those up during play because things cost initiative points to make happen. All right. You can also use initiative points to add combat support to your attacks or to your defenses. All right. You can do individual activations using initiative points. So let's say you activate a unit. You can actually move the unit, put him into reserve to save him for a future attack by other activated units. So you could have a unit that moves in, he's in reserve status adjacent to an enemy unit, and then you activate a headquarters, and the headquarters activates some units. All these units move into attack, and that reserve unit there now, he's going to become part of that attack because you had him in a reserve status ready to go. Remember, we do that in OCS where you put units in reserve, they can move, and then there's a certain phase when they can come out of that reserve status and be effective on the battlefield. All right. Miscellaneous counters. I've already been over the step loss counters. You have out of supply. You have a unique mechanism called guard. On a certain die roll during attacks, the Russian unit has the potential of turning a unit into a guard unit and getting a +1. You drop a marker on him. You have fortifications that can be built on the map. The Russians get so many points. The Germans can do hedgehogs. They both have a similar effect, except for the units in the hedgehogs, they have to burn their full movement allowance to leave a hedgehog once they build one. So what you can do is use your full movement allowance, destroy the hedgehog, and then you can do a force march to get a whole nother full movement. And then you have your activation and reserve markers, and then all your reinforcements, okay? So, look, we got a game of the East Front at an operational level, okay? Operation Typhoon. We all know that SPI's Typhoon was a 3-map game where the units were so spread out. It was kind of weird when I set that game up the first time. This is all on one map, kind of like the Panzer Group Guderian was on one map for Smolensk. So, you could just assume you just played Panzer Group Guderian, now you're going to play this thing here and try to drive on Moscow. And I got an interesting feeling that this is going to be kind of fun just after reading the rules and some of the mechanisms that are in it. There's no aircraft flying around, okay? Your combat support is used by spending initiative points. You have replacements for both the Soviets and Germans, and the Soviets have partisans. They have 5 partisan markers, and I think that's the most that can be on the map at any one time. So, and then they actually have paratroop drop, where paratroops can be dropped. I didn't look at those rules yet because I don't know when those come into play, but I'll look at them, and then they can potentially scatter. Partisans can mess up chains of command or supply routes. As you can see, there's not many roads in this thing, all right? I look at this map. So, all right, there's the basics of Moscow 1941. I'm going to get to play in this. This thing is 31 turns. It has 2 scenarios from what I saw. I think one's called Operation Blitzkrieg, which is probably the one you need to play to learn. Why do that? Let's go right into the full bang of this. Because I got a feeling this thing's not going to play. If it plays terribly slow, yeah, maybe I won't finish it. But something says it's going to move along pretty quick because of the way you're going to be burning initiative points to make things happen, okay? And the initiative points apparently are the major important mechanic of this game. From just, like I say, I haven't played, just from reading. You do have weather. Weather's going to affect things in this, and ground condition. And actually, the ground and weather condition rules are really, really deep in this thing. All right? So there you have it. Moscow 1941, 1987 from TSR. Let's see if we can't get into Moscow there and talk to old Uncle Joe. All right, we'll see y'all soon after we start playing.